Welcome back, everybody. Name of this channel is IANAR. Stands for I Am Not a Robot. Well, the last video upload, I used one of the songs I've written called Surfin the Last Days, and it was about end times and consensus of human opinion, things like that. But not everybody likes the island vibe, so I also wrote that song and produced it in country, and it's called Riding Out the Last Days. And for some reason I got this twang going on in my head and it just doesn't want to leave me. So, I think I'm just going to roll with that at this point and just see where it takes us. In between our video sessions, and I'm not going to keep you long today, but in between I'm going to have an upload of commentary on each one, or sometimes commentary on things that people have brought up and questions they've asked me. And it's going to be called Reflections on the Journey, and I hope you like it. I do hope you stick around for it. But along that line, there have been a couple questions. One was, again, somebody said, I love your music. I truly love your music, but I do not like the mask. In fact, he said he hates it. He even sent me a screenshot of some Wikipedia or something online. There's this movie character. His name's Jason, I think. And I got to admit, he's a scary looking dude. And he's standing there with a mask, a little different than mine, but nonetheless scary. He's holding up a bloody machete, and he's got to be some sort of psychopath. I don't know, but I assured my friend, I'm going to go along with this get-up, in this niche, in this approach. And you'll never see a machete in a screenshot of mine, although I do have a few machetes around. And for example, one of them I got from a dear old friend from Jamaica, and he's passed away now, but he used to use it to dig tubers in the ground and cut sugar cane and things like that, and the edge of that thing was just all worn down from years and years of hand filing, and the handle grip was worn down and discolored from his calloused and sweaty hands. And I remember going up to him one day, I won't say his name here, but I said, I want to buy that machete from you. And he looked at me, kind of crazy. But in my heart, I just wanted something to remember my old friend with. When I look at it, it reminds me of him and the conversations that we had and the wisdom he dropped in my life. And I gave him money to go buy himself a brand new machete, and that's that. So there's the mask, there's Jason. I do know how to use a machete, but I can't even tell you the last time I had a psychotic episode, so I think we're safe. Something else, a name. Now, Mzee is a name that some people call me even to this day. Mzee is a Swahili word, and I got it on my first trip to Africa, to Tanzania and Kenya, before almost every one of you was born, I'm sure. But in Swahili, that word means respected elder or father, and I kind of cherish that. And I don't know if you ever want to call me a name other than please don't call me something vulgar, but Mzee is something I can handle, and that's even the name of my music producing company. But before we go further, there's a couple things I just kind of need to get off my chest. One is, I'm human. Another is, there's not going to be any CGI generated thing. It doesn't take a genius to see I'm not a Hollywood actor, and there's not all kind of bells and shiny whistles. I think if you hang in here with me, you're going to find I'm authentic, and I'll try and keep it real at all times. But speaking of lessons of the past, I've lived a long and full life. I really have, and I've been a sociologist of sorts, and I've been a scuba diver, and I studied martial arts, and I did faith-based counseling. I am an ordained minister, and many, many very interesting things. And I want to just tell you, things you're passionate about, do it because you love it. Do not do it chasing money, because that'll almost always change you or end up in frustration. So while I love doing those things, I made my living as a building contractor, and I was pretty good at it. And I could probably put YouTube videos out there, 10 steps out of frame a house and things like that. But there's all kind of people doing a great job at that. But I don't see a whole lot of people imparting wisdom. trying to be authentic, trying not to get caught up in the showbiz of it all. So, in fact, you and I are probably going to get along a lot better if you just kind of think of a campfire. I happen to be standing by it, warming myself up, and you might come up next to me and maybe we'll find something to talk about. Or I'm at a fence line looking out over a field or a forest. Or maybe I'm at a dock, because you know me, I love the ocean. We're out looking at the water, and we get together and somehow strike up a conversation, and it becomes good and valuable. But while I've done many, many, many things, one rather sad thing is almost all of them's in my rearview mirror. In fact, I don't see myself going to other countries anymore like I've done for 26 years, something like that. And there may even be a time when people won't allow us to travel the way we think we can come and go now. But I could either sit here and be forlorn and think my life's over and that's that, but there's still some creative juices going on. There's still lessons I'd like to pass on to younger people that I think they need to learn. So here I am trying to do this, and I'm telling you, the struggle is real. Man, there's so much to learn with technology and uploading this and editing that, and like I said, it don't take a rocket science to know. What you see kind of is what you get. And that doesn't mean I don't want to get better. I do. I'm not a big fan of giving participation trophies to kids just because they know how to tie up their sneakers. No, sir. I believe in a merit-based system, but I'm going to keep trying. I know nobody ever roped the bull first time out of the chute, so I'll keep working at it. And by His grace, I'll get better. I'll be honored if you hang in here with me. So getting to some of the music, I wrote Surfin' the Last Days and Riding Out the Last Days, and my music's available in, I guess, something like 23 different channels out there in the world. I do hope you download some of it. I do hope you enjoy it. And there's people that are so clever at making videos and such things that they could probably turn some of these things into very interesting video presentations, but that's not me. Another thing that I think is important to pass on is it's a gift. It truly is a gift if a man or woman can know how the Most High wired them, how they made them. And I'm not saying accept the faults. I'm not saying don't try and improve. But stop trying to be in something you ain't. Stop trying to mimic or copy somebody else. You be you. I'll be me. And maybe we'll walk hand in hand through some of this journey, right? So one of the lines in the song I wrote was, everybody's got a worldview. And that's the truth. It doesn't matter if well, for my sake, there was a time in my life where I was a gravedigger in between college semesters, and I've been a graduate student, but everybody has a lens that they look at life through, a way they process information, and the way they see in relation to other people around them. And it doesn't matter if you're an egghead or a pothead, everybody's got a worldview. And frankly, in my opinion, some people haven't lived enough life to even express their worldview. Some people are just flat out fools, but be that as it may, we all live to learn and be human together and grow together. But speaking of this worldview, it doesn't matter where you come from, right here or far away. Everybody's got a worldview no matter what they say. And so today I want to step back from the music just for a few minutes and share some reflections from the field and reflections on the journey. And over decades of traveling and living and working across different continents, from rural villages in India or crowded cities, Africa, the Caribbean, Mexico, places like this, everybody, there's one universal truth. Every single human being is living on a timeline. And every single person is riding a wave of their own making. Another place in the music, it says, as long as you got cable in your TV screen, this great distraction, whether you look at our society through a secular lens or a religious lens or a historical one, the game hasn't changed much since ancient Rome. Back then, they say they called it bread and circuses. You keep the population fed just enough keep them entertained, and they won't look too closely at who's pulling the levers. Well, today it's not gladiators in the arena, it's screens and constant updates and algorithmic noise designed to keep your brains buzzing. We smoke our lives away on outrage and sports and politics and endless scrolling, and man, do we have us some distractions. We just see on social media somebody posts something and you think, oh, they're living such a wonderful life. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. And speaking of me wearing a mask and coming off something like that, I tell you the truth. If it isn't already here, there's going to be a day when you won't know what to believe. You won't know what you're seeing, if it's real or not. It's already here in so many ways, and I am going to try my best to avoid that. I can already have AI write these scripts, and you know what? If I just said 100 or 200 words into a microphone someplace and put it through technology, they could remake my voice, they could make me smooth and shiny and nice. I ain't having it. I am not having it. And you got America's Got Talent, you got Kazakhstan, or who knows where. Everybody has these talent shows and trying to portray the world as just like a stage and performance, and so many people are driven to see if they can just get themselves some likes, to get some followers, to make it go viral in some form or fashion. That ain't me. When I was working in the field abroad, I saw communities that had very little in terms of material wealth. And you know, some people, they come away from something like that and they say, oh, isn't that precious? Isn't that pure? Isn't that how it all ought to be? You know, you spend some time with them and you find they just real like you. I've seen satellite dishes on thatched houses. I'm kid you not. And I've seen so many people addicted to their devices, almost like we here in the West. They have a little more difficulty because sometimes the internet's glitchy and things like that. So maybe they go to an internet cafe and they scroll and they search and they try and post things on their version of social media. And I've also seen many that sit there trying to cast a line and catch themselves a foreigner and just say, support me. What I'm doing here is vital. If you just send me money, I'll be your man on the ground. And they're just trying to land himself a big fish, and that ain't me either. But I've seen it. All around the world, we're given a sedative. And the powers that be, they tell us, we want internet to go all out the West, and we want it to go into Africa, and we want it to go in the tribal regions, and yada, yada, yada. And we think, oh, that's great. That's going to be good for education and whatnot. But I think their primary agenda is to get the whole world addicted to the song they're playing, to the tune that they're marching to, and to get us all following lockstep. You be careful, all that stuff. In another line in my song, I says, what's the cost of staying asleep? What's the cost to make a slave? Because, you know, as long as the Wi-Fi works and the show is on, nobody asks those hard questions. And people get hung up on the phrase end times. And some people view it purely as biblical prophecy. Others view it as environmental collapse or economic ruin. And don't you know that we've seen enough of that? If you ever study something called predictive programming, well, I'll tell you, I was scuba diving in Mexico once, probably again before you were born, and the Hale-Bopp comet went by. And some people thought that's the end right there. That's the end of days. And then some of you might be old enough to remember Y2K, and I call that Yawn 2K. And I know people personally that got themselves some ammunition. They took money out of the bank, lots of amounts, and they had their meals ready to eat, enough to get through this, and they had generators and this and that. And it turned out to be, in my opinion, I'm probably wrong, because I go for some of this conspiratorial stuff, and then you live long enough and you see it's been proven to be true. What the heck? But they have something called predictive programming. And we've seen the alien invasions, and we're going to wipe out the whole coastline, and we've seen the epidemic that's going to kill millions in much of the planet. They kind of want us to live in that fear. in that panic. I'm not saying they don't have some very nasty things planned for us, but try and find peace. Try and find truth. In the occult world, sometimes that's called revelation of the method, and somehow these wicked people, they have to reveal what they're going to do or try to usher into us, sometimes decades before it happens. But put that aside. Every human being in life operates on their own personal timeline. The thief is counting down the days until the lock doesn't turn or the alarm goes off. And the gambler's riding him a high, wondering how long before his luck runs out. The addict is pushing their body to the brink, asking quietly in the back of their mind, how many more times can I do this before something breaks down or I get hooked too deeply? And the adulterer, the one who wants to bail out on their covenant relationship, they might be wondering how long before this falls apart, or how long before he or she sees my texts or suspects something up. And I have to admit, there's some people that wonder, how long do I have to stay in this relationship that's dangerous or suffocating? We all are on a timeline, and as we grow, we can't run from our own mortality. Your parents, older people, how long before this surgery comes up? How long before I can no longer do this activity that I love? We're all facing our own last days, our own limits, our own accountability, and our own mortality. You don't have to be a theologian to recognize that time is finite, and I'm telling you, it is brief. The question isn't then just, when is the world ending? The real question is, what are you doing with the time on your clock right now? Another thing that I say in this song is, the one thing they're afraid of is what we believe. You ever notice how much effort is put in to keep us divided? Round Earth, flat Earth, Big Bang Theory, 6 short days. AI is coming to save the world. A lot of people believe AI is going to be destroying it. But it's easy to get dragged into hating your neighbor over the daily headline. But when you strip away the propaganda, what power system and what structures actually fear isn't your opinion of today's news cycle. What they fear is a conviction that cannot be bought. They fear an individual who stops looking at the screen, looks at their neighbor, and operates from a foundation of genuine faith and real purpose and critical thought. A human who knows what they believe and stands on, they ain't easy to push around. I value your comments. I value your likes and subscriptions. I'm honored if you made it this far in today's little broadcast. I want to get to know you. And the neat thing about this, I have to admit, I've had people in one country pose a question and somebody in another country joins in. That is how we build some sort of community. Maybe that's how we wake one another up. You think on that, and please continue to follow this channel. You know, there was a fella in a beer commercial, I think, an actor, and he always used to end his program with this. He'd say, "Stay thirsty, my friends." Well, I'm going to end this way. Let's just keep it real and stay human, my friend.